keep doing this to get rid of those hairs. I was doing some grooming in the bathroom the other day, and halfway through lopping my beard off, my electric beard trimmer battery died, and I could not for the life of me find my charging cable, so had to come to the desk here and get this pair of scissors and lop off the rest of my mane, as it were, and hair was everywhere. So I've been doing this for the last couple of days, and these things go away, but in this case these are just pen marks. So that over here, though, that's, I bet, yeah, that's part of my beard. That's part of me. Okay. I recently have been watching a number of videos that Wasky Squirrel has put up, and he always has, at the end of any given week for I don't know how many years he's been doing this, but couple anyway, at least, he does a show called Pens in Use. I'm not quite doing that with the drama that he's able to impart, but he does make it sound like it's an advertisement for a thriller or some sort of world champion wrestler coming on stage or something. It has this gravitas that I never seem to have when I'm dealing with my pens, but he does. He also, what he does, I believe, what he does is he'll select from his assortment of collection, he'll select, 8 or 10 pens that he will use during the week. He'll fill them with ink and he'll write with them during that week, and when they run out of ink, I don't exactly know how he decides to put a pen down and retire it. The jury's out on that. It seems as if he writes until they run dry, and he'll probably, knowing him, he'll probably rinse them out with water and fill up a new pen for the next week. I don't do that. I grab randomly, in some cases, whatever happens to be filled on my drawing desk and carry it with me when I go out to dinner or to go to urban sketching or go over to my couch to write my list of things that I have to do. I will grab something that I know has ink because it has ink in it and I can write with it. If I have to do something more thoughtful, where I want to use a particular pen for a particular task, I will not pick them quite at random. I will pick them deliberately. And then in that deliberate choice, if I actually end up using them, which sometimes is not the case, sometimes I will have a plan and my plans change and I've got 5 pens I just put ink in and I don't need to use the big fat stub nib today because the client was run over by a bus or something, or I changed my mind and I want to do something else. So, but anyway, when I do find that I fill up one pen that I'm using, and let's say it's a pen that has a very slight flex to it, very fine and has a slight flex, my brain gets into this kind of nib, the mode of this kind of nib or this kind of pen. More the nib than the pen, but sometimes it's the pen. I'll go through a phase of wanting to write with Parker Vacuumatics. It happened once. 30. No, it happened maybe a few times. If I get a brand new Parker, to me, a brand new model of a particular pen, and I fill it up and it's making me smile, I'll run over to my drawer full of that particular model and drag them out of their dormancy, kicking and screaming, and fill them with ink, and then I go through this little phase. That's happened with 51s, it's happened with Vacuumatics, it's happened with Schaefer Triumph nib pens. I just get on this little kick. But these days, most of the time, the kicks that I get involved with have to do with the way the pen writes, in which case I don't care who made it. I just want nibs that are like this particular one in this pen. So I had a plan yesterday for Urban Sketchers. I had a number of ideas in my head to use this paper. These are cut up my vellum envelopes that I bought from my neighbor, who's a printmaker or a printer. He is a letterpress printer, and I don't think he letterpressed on these things. I can't imagine how that would have worked, but he had a number of these things for a client, and he didn't want them anymore, and he gets rid of things he doesn't need. And luckily I'm in town, because I will take things that he doesn't need and I will trip over them for the next 30 years until I die, because I'm never going to use everything that I've been dragging into my house. But this particular stuff I pulled in because I thought I had an idea. And Urban Sketching the other day went to the Smith Center in Harvard Square, which is a brand new building or redesigned building that has all sorts of glass. And my thought was to glass and stainless steel looking colored beams holding the building up. And my thought was to do drawings on this paper because it seemed clean and crisp and good. So let me just show you I love the sound that these make. Yeah, I know. These look like a bunch of scribbles. So these are the beams with the rivets, not the rivets, but the bolts holding it together. Here's the sky. Here's the facade of the wall coming down. Here's the ceiling that was made of wood. But it was just drawing these trapezoids in these shapes. And I was going to use these water brushes to melt or dissolve the water-based ink, Waterman ink I was filling with these things. And there's another one that I did, and another. And so, did these turn out? What do you think? Is this right side up? Here, this is right side up. So anyway, that was the plan. So I thought, here I'm going to use, I wanted to use very, very fine nibbed pens that would put down a certain amount of ink, perhaps not very much ink at all, and then I was going to use these water-based brushes to smush them around. And I specifically chose, for the most part, fine nibbed pens. And as you can see, maybe you can't, but this particular pen I filled with brown ink. This one has red ink in it. This has blue. This has black. This has purple. See if I remember correctly. No, that's purple. I'll show you. Purple. And I was planning on trying to create drawings that did have some element of color, even though very selective color. I wasn't using a full palette. I was using a few different colors. And when I got there, after filling all these pens with all of these different colors, my plan changed. And I ended up just using one pen and one color and one. But my plan was, going to have these polychromatic drawings done of, and I still might do that because I have these pens filled with ink, and for me to empty them all out into the right bottle is not going to happen. I'm just going to keep them in these pens for the moment, and I am going to force myself to do drawings based on these various colors. And I like those sorts of challenges because I find myself so uninspired at times that I need the restriction and the constriction of a particular thing to help me focus. An example of that is most often seen when I have a piece of paper in front of me, a blank piece of paper, and I have to think of a drawing I want to make. The first thing I do is draw a square. And that is the size and the shape of my drawing. If I just started drawing without this there, if I started drawing the, I don't know what I'm drawing. The person playing the violin, how does the violin work? Here he's chin and his hand is down here with his bow and he's sawing away at it. I feel I feel very I don't want to say unsafe. I don't have the security. I feel insecure about this thing floating in nothingness. But if I start with this box, this rectangle, and I start putting the same drawing within this border, I have a sense of how it will fit in relationship with all of the other elements. This is sort of putting this box around a drawing I do is restrictive, but it also makes me able to move forward in a confident way. It would be like the first thing I have to know before I make dinner. Well, I'd have to know what the hell happened to me that I would even want to make dinner rather than go out and have someone give it to me for money. If I had to make dinner on Tuesday night, I'd have to know before I do anything, I have to know how many people I'm making dinner for. If it's me, I buy one chicken or part of a chicken. If I have 10 people to feed, I buy 8 chickens or whatever I need to buy to make the meal, to follow the recipe. I have to know how much to make. So that is a restriction that allows you to move forward. So sometimes a restriction like this pen having purple ink is going to make it easier for me to make a drawing because this pen has purple ink in it. This pen didn't have any ink in it, and I had all of my bottles of ink in front of me. for me to decide what color to put in it, that might hinder me from actually doing the drawing. Am I making any sense whatsoever? Back to Wasky Squirrel and pens in use. I have on my desk right now, I'm surveying everywhere, not just here, but I have maybe 25 pens that have ink in them. There's none in my pocket. Yeah, I have about 25 pens that have ink in them, and some of them have ink for a particular job I'm working on right now. Put that one over there. Put that one over there. Those I'm working on a job. This one I'm using the pencil. Put that over there. These are the ones that now are filled with these colored inks, and maybe I will continue thinking about creating art using this palette that I have in front of me. And I think that's what's fun about, I mean, the ink color issue is something that's strange for me. Normally I'm Mr. Basic Black because it matches my soul, and my brain thinks in black and white, not so much in color. But and normally I think about the line that a pen makes. Almost all of these pens, that one I'll exclude. This one isn't mine. I'm repairing that for someone. How did that get in here? All of these pens have relatively the same kind of nib, fine and just slightly flexible. So there's no the nib type is not really a factor. It's about color. And I feel nicely constricted by that those barriers around my creativity, and it actually allows me to be creative. If I think, okay, now I've got these elements, what can I do with these elements? Now when I actually sit down and draw with these elements, maybe I will draw on this paper, which I intended to do. Maybe I will draw the same kinds of things I was thinking about when I got these things filled up with ink, or I may change my mind halfway down and draw something entirely different. We'll see. But there's things percolating in my little head based on those pens that I've filled up and used. I don't know whether Wasky Squirrel, when he puts his pen collection together for what he's going to use that week, whether any of the pens and any of the inks that he puts into those pens, the colors that he chooses, changes how he thinks and the words that he writes. I have a feeling that they don't. I have a feeling that he is the master with respect to the pens. You know, the pen serves the master. For me, it can be the other way around. I let the pen tell me what it wants to do. And part of that is because of the choice I made in picking that pen with the fine nib and filling it with purple ink. And now I'm allowing the purple ink and the fine nib, more the nib than the purple. But I'm allowing the nib to tell me, okay, we're going to draw a delicate drawing, whether you like it or not, Per Gustafson, because you have a delicate nib to deal with. When I have a big moppy nib, it tells me to do other things. So that's sort of how I think he might be different from me. Now, yes, I know I'm the one that chose to pick up the delicate nib. I know that. But having picked it up and having used it for a little bit, I do remember things about that nib, or discover things, sometimes more importantly, discover things about that nib, and that then I start thinking about drawing in a different way, or writing in a different way, picking a different word. Can you imagine something like that? A pen is telling me what kind of word to use. I can understand that entirely. You know, in an alternate universe, let's say I have to write a letter to my neighbor about the noisy party that they had last night. My neighbor does not have noisy parties. I just want to let you know that. Occasionally I might hear him go hurrah or something like that when some sports team makes a goal or scores something, or whatever sports teams do. They're just a bunch of men that touch each other, as far as I can tell. But people that know how games work know that a touchdown is important. So you yell hurrah. I hear him yell hurrah. So let's pretend he was yelling hurrah way too much. Dear neighbor, you know, if I wrote with this pen, I might be using words like I know you appreciate Tom Brady and his ability to move a piece of pigskin from one end of a green to the other and get paid millions of dollars for doing that. But could you shut up? Could you do that more quietly? Could you restrain your enthusiasm? Whereas if I had this pen and wanted to convey, write a note, dear, you know, this is already loud and shouting, so it may make me pick a different word and make a different sentence. You know, shut the F up. I don't care how many blah blah blahs happened in that game you watched last night, but it's keeping me awake. Damn you to hell. This may make me choose different words than this pen. And if there were two alternate universes, one with Pierre Gustafson using this pen writing my note, and one with Pierre Gustafson using that pen writing that note to my neighbor, my neighbor's note back to me might, in that different universe, might be very different from what's happening now, and everything will change because of my using a particular kind of a pen. And because I let pens tell me what to do. I have a feeling that Wasky Squirrel tells his pens what to do, and they do what he tells them. I have no willpower whatsoever, by the way. So that's probably why that happens. I do find, though, back to the point in question, the pens that I have filled with ink on my desk, I have a belief that they will inform me and influence me to a degree where I'll suddenly rediscover other pens that have that quality, or maybe I'll just decide I can't deal with this fine nib shit anymore. I have to do something else and put a different pen in my pocket. Oh, I've gotten to the point where I don't even know what I'm trying to say anymore. So I guess that's as good a point as any, time as any, to say goodbye. Goodbye.